Hey guys, I'm back with another review for you today. Chances are you've already seen the last video that I did, which was to kind of do all the unboxing of it. So I'm not going to kind of delve into the packaging or anything like that with this figure, purely because I did it on the previous video. So if you want to look at the packaging for him, just look back and it'll be the last video prior to this one that I uploaded. But obviously if you're here now and you just want to kind of have a look at what the figure is like regardless of the packaging, it is the MMS 378-D17 1/6 scale Iron Man Mark 6 diecast from Hot Toys. It is for the Avengers one, technically speaking, but it also has details and kind of the battle damage and things, as you'll come to see, which actually reference Iron Man 2 rather than the damage that he suffered in Avengers. So it's a bit of both really, despite it actually claiming to be an Avengers figure. We'll delve straight in here with the accessories and things. Got them all laid out in front of you as per usual. Like I said, the box and everything are there, covered in the last video, so we're not going to go over that. What you did notice, obviously, when you did check out the last video, is the amount of accessories that this guy comes with. And when you lay it out in front as well, it just becomes staggering. The amount of stuff that you've got just to kind of attach to his arms. The rest of him, really, with the exception of his base, is just a kind of a standard diecast kind of Iron Man setup. But it really shines, like I say, when you come to kind of checking out all of these kind of modular bits that you can put on his arms for all the rocket launchers and things. So he does have a lot of cool weapons and things that pop out of him. First things first anyway, you've got your instructions. Now I did say previously that I was going to look through them. I really recommend you do that, and I mean it took me a good kind of half an hour to look through it and kind of follow it, make sure I wasn't going to do anything too silly with the figure. There is a fair few pages to this. It's actually 11 pages long, and it goes through firstly how to install your batteries, how to replace out the weaponized parts, the damaged parts, a few extra features like the calves open up and you can see the pistons working under there and the air flaps, how the arms and the waist rotations move and what angles you can move them at as per usual, same with the legs and the waist, and then how to set up your base and how to use the little arms that fall out of the gantry as well. And then a few little bits of caution, just obviously warning you, careful of catching certain bits because it can rub the paint off it. And also don't drop it on your foot because it's really heavy. But yeah, that's it. You know, have a look through it. Make sure that you have covered everything in the guide first, really, before you start playing with him. So that's the kind of the requisite part of the review out of the way, as per all of them. You do get a little pair of tweezers, which I've noticed they've started popping in with all the Iron Man figures now, the diecast ones, which are really cool. And they help me a fair bit with installing the batteries on this figure. You also get one of the metal screwdrivers that are really good. I did used to have one of the old kind of plasticky ones that you used to get with the Iron Man 42 and they were rubbish. But these new metal ones are really good. And you also get enough batteries to put in the figure. I've popped them out and put them in the figure so I can show you it all lit up later on. So you would have batteries in there when you crack him open from new as well. Then you get to his kind of bounty of accessories that you get with him. And as you can see, all this down this one right hand side here is all arms and hands. I mean, even these technically count towards that as well. But yeah, he's very, very well armed, as you'll get to see. First things first, we'll get into kind of the exciting bit, and that is the Robert Downey Jr. head sculpt. Now, people have claimed that it's a recast of various things. I'm not sure. I think it's a very, very, very good update on it personally. I think it's a new head sculpt, if I'm honest. The previous head sculpt, the iterations we've got, if you look back at the things like the mechanic and such, haven't been anywhere near as good. And if that, you know, for me, that's the kind of same calibre as the kind of 46 that we've got and the 47 with the unhelmeted Downey, where, you know, it's the detail on it is absolutely incredible. So I don't think that's an old head sculpt that they've reused. I think that's a brand new sculpt. If anybody knows any different, by the way, just feel free to kind of drop me a comment there, let me know. But personally, I think that's a new head sculpt. He has got a little magnetised feature on the top, so you can have him open or close the helmet visor, and he's got his little ball socket there to put into his neck. Nothing else opens or does anything on this head sculpt. The light up one is on the other body, just laid at the side of me here now, which we'll get to when we're kind of covering the main figure. But that comes bagged up on its own. The next bit that we'll go over is the actual faceplate that you get with the head sculpt, and this is the damaged one. It is referencing again, it's Iron Man 2, not Avengers. I watched it again last night, and yeah, the damage that you get on a faceplate on the chest, absolutely certain that it's Iron Man 2. So yeah, you can have him with his visor open if you want to, or you can close it over his face if you want. Naturally, you won't get any light up features behind that though. But they are modular. You can swap out the face plates with depending on which head sculpt you want underneath. But I do really like that big gouge down the side of the face. It looks awesome. The next bit is with the chest piece. So we'll just bring that into focus for you so you can have a look. This is plastic. It's the lovely kind of candied red colour that we're used to getting from the Iron Man series. All the recent ones have all been around about the same colour. When they've used red, it's this kind of candy red. Do like the transparent holes and things in the gouges in the armour, so when you swap out the chest piece you get to see all the inner workings underneath the torso armour, so that's really cool. And it's a nice big clear triangle to view your arc reactor through as well, so it does shine really brightly through that that chest triangle. It just pegs in with a piece of plastic there, these two prongs. I am a little bit disappointed that they haven't either done more prongs to clip it in or a magnet or something, because they don't feel as secure as some of the chest pieces that I've swapped out before, so just be careful with these, because if one falls off, that's it, then you know you're going to struggle. It is interesting to note as well, it's not symmetrical either. There's a bit of a chip and kind of a scratch missing out the top corner of this that's intentional, which is quite cool. I'll put that to one side. And then we start looking at all these kind of arm accessories and things. You have got these for his shoulders before you kind of start working your way down, I guess. These are his little missile pods that go onto his shoulders. They are magnetised, so they do swap out really, really easily. And they've got a little kind of articulated joint on the back, so you can rotate them up and down, which is quite cool. Really, really easy to switch those out. There's no issues whatsoever with them, so I'm surprised that these weren't applied to kind of more of the armour and things, because these, as much as it would have been a little bit costly to use magnets in them, it would have made life so much easier. Even if they'd have done kind of a half and half arm piece, what the Mark 42 and the 43 had, they would have just made life a bit easier, whereas that's 4 segments per wrist. But you know, we'll get to it when we start kind of putting them on, and I'll show you them all demonstrated with all the other things unfolded, because it is really awesome. They are the little kind of rockets that just open out from flaps in his arms. The whole arm actually looks like the panel's supposed to slide back and these things open, which is quite cool. It's like a nice effect to show them deploying. There are some gaps, if you notice, just inside here as well. Those gaps are designed so that the light can actually shine through from his wrist-like LEDs that he's got in there. So you've got the cool blue light shining behind all the rockets. I'll show you this one as well. They are basically identical for each side, for left and right, and they are marked. They're embossed R1 through 4 and L1 through 4 for each side, depending which one you're using. You do get a bigger rocket for the back of the arm, for the back of the forearm there, so it's the big gold rocket that folds out. That's quite cool. These just clip in with these square pegs and these round pegs, so they do fit nicely. And if you look around the edges of them as well, there's some tabs just to kind of align them together where they'll all layer up. If you follow your instructions, it tells you which ones to pop in first and kind of systematically work your way around his wrist. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll go all the way around it. So that's the weapon systems on the arm. I will go over it a little bit more just when I can kind of demonstrate it on the figure as well, because I can show you with the lights and things underneath them as well. It looks really nice. I do love the display option that you've got with them. It's just a shame that the base you get doesn't really kind of suit it, because it looks more like the bit where he's just landed and he's having his armour removed. He doesn't look kind of battle ready in that base, so a little bit, you know, would have quite liked maybe a flying pole or something like that, so he can actually look like he's flying. I think the bit in Avengers when he kind of holds up Loki, and he kind of pulls all the weapons out on him, but that'd be quite nice. But other than that, you know, they are a really nice feature. I am quite a fan of them. Let's have a look at the hands now. Typical standard fare for an Iron Man figure these days. If you've seen one, you've seen it quite often. You get a pair of fisted hands which haven't got a light on inside the palms. They're on the actual figure itself. Then you also get a pair of articulated fingers and thumb with a LED hole inside, so when you've got the repulsor lights turned on, they will shine through the articulated fingers. They also have an articulated back panel for the back of the wrist as well, so it looks really cool. It closes that off nicely. Just be careful because it is on a kind of flimsy-ish hinge, and the last thing you want to do is overexert it and snap it. What I will say about these hands before I go any further as well is they are quite tight. These are like the tightest wrist joints I've ever had on an Iron Man, so you've got to be really, really careful in kind of working them off and on him, whereas sometimes they used to pop off really easy. I've had a bit of trouble with these. It might not be the same for everybody, as I might have just got kind of really tight wrists, but you know, just keep an eye on it. The next arm hand we get is the repulsor hand. So these have got a clear translucent hole in the actual palm itself, and the palm is kind of bent backwards, and this is stuck. This isn't articulated, this back flap. It is stuck purposely out like that. So it does look really nice. Again, that lovely candy metallic red. These pieces are all plastic, by the way, none of them are metallic. So again, when we were kind of querying what was die cast in it, etc., all the accessories that we've touched on thus far have all been plastic. And then finally, in terms of hands, you get something that I've not actually seen before in any other Iron Man. Might be that, you know, somebody else has got it on a figure that I haven't actually looked at before. The closest thing I can think of it being like is like with the Silver Centurion, because he had little knives that popped into the back of his wrists. These are fisted hands, same as what you've already got on the figure, but then the gauntlet is actually kind of opened up, and there's a little kind of laser that pops out of him. It's supposed to be like what he has at the end of Iron Man 2, when he pops out and he kind of spins around in a circle and chops all the hammer drones up. The detail on the fists are really nice as well, by the way. Love the chipping effect. And that's exactly what the port, by the way, is what these are for. So if you look on there, it's just a little port on the back of the knuckle. It is square, so I'm just going to be careful in popping it in. I'm not going to press it in too far because I don't want to get into struggle getting it out again, but yeah, it's just the kind of laser feature that he has that kind of blasts out. I can't remember if they were pink or not. Like I say, I watched it last night, but I'm pretty sure the lasers were red and not pink, so might be a slight inconsistency there, but we have actually had those little like kind of lasers before, but it was on the Mark 45, and it wasn't actually on the back of the hand, it was on the wrist, and a piece actually pulled up out of the back of the gauntlet on the wrist, and that's when you slid it in. But I do quite like that they've included those. It's again, it's part of this kind of super kind of armoured up aggressive Iron Man that you can get with all of his weapon systems deployed, which is awesome. And last but not least is his base. Now, pretty standard kind of thing now where you get these scenic bases or these big round bases with an Iron Man figure, but you don't get a standard base like for a museum pose, and it is a little bit annoying sometimes because if you're like me now, I'm really pushed for space, and this is a massive kind of gap filler. I've had to move a few things around, some figures I've had to get boxed up and put out of the way just because I haven't got room for them when I'm putting Iron Mans out. So if Hot Toys, if you're listening, you've probably already had it told to you before, but please just put us in one of those little square museum pose bases as well, because these, as beautiful as this is, it's a display nightmare. We'll get onto the actual base anyway. So you get the pole. It is die cast. It's really heavy, and you get a waist grabber as well, and it's got sponge around the outside and on the inside bit here. So nice kind of protection there for your figure when it's holding him. It does say again, you know, don't use any of the non-supplied bases with the figure just because he's that heavy. So I do recommend using the one that you get with him. And then you get this, which is the gantry base. So it's designed to be like a smaller version, certainly, of the gantry that he lands on Avengers Tower, or Stark Tower at the beginning of Avengers, and kind of he lands outside and he's like, I'm not home, I'm actually out, and then he lands, and then this folds up and the little arms pop out and start taking his armour off him, which is quite nice. I mean, it's smaller scale, this isn't big, it doesn't extend or anything like that. And these arms are really nice, but personally, I like to kind of have them in the background, kind of just like that, like they're just opening up. I don't want to have them fully deployed because, to be honest, it doesn't look like they could handle taking his armour off him. But yeah, they're all nice. I mean, the articulation on them is great. You get one in each side too. You get a little kind of metal kind of claw at the end of each one as well. And they do fold up and out of the way really nicely, so you're not going to see them if you don't want them on display anyway. This is where you'd screw your flight pole in, and then there is a switch just on the back there. It takes 3 AAA batteries that aren't supplied with it. And when you've got them put in there, which I have, and you fire it up, the front of the steps light up, and that looks really, really nice. I'm really impressed with that, actually. To say it is a smaller scale version of this gantry, so it's not as big and impressive as it is in the movie. This does fold up kind of all the way if you wanted it to, so you can have it, you know, up like that. The problem is, obviously, that your Iron Man's not going to stand there, so you kind of have to have it kind of an almost 45-degree kind of pose behind him, where it's just starting to rise up out of the floor. But again, it's really, really nice, that base. I just wish that it included a museum pose base as well. So just pop that down. But that is his accessories. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop all these back in the box, and I'm going to get the figure out as he comes inside the styrofoam out. So you'll just get to see him. The accessories that come with him when he's not kind of got them displayed in the box, what are displayed on the figure. And then afterwards I'll have a play with him, I'll pose him up, I'll put some of these accessories on to demonstrate it for you as well. Okay, back in a second. Okay, so this is the figure straight out of the box, and how he appears really when you start taking all the baggies and the little bits of foam and things off him. I have stood him on his base, however I've not extended the gantry up just so we can actually have a look and properly appreciate the figure before we start messing about and posing him and things like that. It is a really impressive figure. I can't get over how good it looks. It isn't so much of a reissue of the first version of the Mark 6 that we had out that was plastic. This is a complete re-engineer of it. And it's definitely shines with all that new technology that a lot of the new Iron Man figures have started incorporating into them. I know I mentioned that all the accessories and things that we got were all plastic. The rest of the figure, it seems like there's quite a lot of die cast on him, especially compared to, say, the 45, and I think even the 46 didn't have much. This has got a lot of die cast, and he really weighs a lot of by comparison to the other figures. What we'll do first of all is we'll just get up there and just have a look at the head sculpt if we can. It's not, obviously, it's not a portraited face or anything like that, because we had a look at the Robert Downey one, but yeah, really good, kind of solid looking Iron Man. He does look a bit kind of long-faced and sad in the camera here, but I assure you he's not. It's just some weird perspective that's going on. It looks a lot better from the side really on camera, but it is an absolutely awesome Iron Man helmet. It's the one that I like most, and a lot of people like the Mark 7 from Avengers, but this is probably my favourite Iron Man. I love the triangular arc. It reminds me of the comics and the kind of cartoons and things I used to watch. This is also a pretty special Iron Man, really, when you think about it, in part of the MCU. This is the last Iron Man suit that Tony needed the gantry for to kind of take his armour off and on. Because if you remember the Mark 7 in Avengers, it's fired out of the Stark Tower at him, and the suit actually opens up and it kind of clips around him, whereas before, prior to all that, the last marks of armour that we had to be installed piece by piece onto him. It's quite kind of special, and a bit of a kind of turning point really in terms of the engineering that Tony went through to make his Iron Man suit. I think this is why I probably like this one the best as well, just because it's the idea that, you know, Iron Man is about, it's wearing a big metal suit. You know, personally speaking, I'm not keen on things like the Infinity War one, the whole thing like with the bleeding edge armour design. It's not for me. I just prefer my Iron Man kind of chunky and it being kind of whirring machinery and things like that, because it was supposed to be a robot suit of armour. But anyway, personal opinions aside. So that's the helmet, the lovely, like I said, the lovely kind of transparent triangle there to accommodate the lovely arc reactor in, and it's really, really cool. You get up in there, you can see the palladium arc that he starts making. Sorry, no, it's not palladium. The palladium's the Mark V. This is the new element that he creates to kind of stop him from getting palladium poison. If I remember rightly, again, I can't believe I watched it last night and I've forgotten so much. But yeah, while we're up here, we're looking at the head and things. I'll just show you how the faceplate works. So you take the faceplate off. It is magnetised on the inside, much the same as the damaged one is. You do get a few nice little scuffs and chips on it. I do like the ones under the eyes and things like that. And then you get this kind of crazy laser-eyed Cylon robot thing going on, as you've seen probably before on most of the other Iron Man figures that we've got with light features in the helmet. The top of the head is also magnetic, so that just pops off with a magnet in there, and it just slides around to kind of clip around here. The magnets in the brow are actually really strong as well, so it all holds on really snug. And then your battery switch is just here, and it powers on. You can't really see much because it's quite light in this room, but that light is really bright, I assure you. Let's pop that back on there. Pop his face back on. So that's your head sculpt. Articulation from his neck, because we'll work down while we're kind of covering things. He can turn all the way around, but obviously it starts looking a bit weird and gappy and things like that. So probably say you can get a 45-degree turn each side like that. And the head is actually really articulated because you can get him looking quite high up. Again, get a bit gappy and he gets a bit of a giraffe neck going on. But it is posable. It looks like it's on a double ball joint as well, so you can kind of rock it back and things like that. So you can have him bent down quite heavily as well, and you can kind of push and pull his neck backwards and forwards if you want to. The neck itself as well, this bit under here, is articulated slightly. I want to say slightly, it just seems really stiff, so don't want to do too much with it. But yeah, it's there, it is articulated with a little bit of pushing and pulling. But yeah, there's quite a lot of articulation in the head sculpt, which is, again, is quite nice. I've got no worries really about being able to pose the head and things like that. I've got the Silver Centurion, and his head doesn't really pose all that well. He can really struggle to kind of get any turning on there. And the shotgun as well, they both have like older ones from Iron Man 3, but the heads don't really have that much articulation. Working a bit lower down, we'll get to his shoulders now. So these are the pieces that are magnetic, that you just swap out to put the missile pods on, and it's just an indentation there, and it's really strong magnet. Again, it just fits really nice and snug and closes off really well. So no problems with these. Just be careful obviously of losing your magnets and things, because the glue isn't always the strongest when it comes from Hot Toys. These also are cool little panels that fold up, and there is little missile racks that live in his shoulders. So they just open up there like that, and then obviously you could put the missile racks on there, and he has an almost kind of War Machine style kind of aspect when he opens up all of his weaponry out of his armour. So that's that. These shoulders are articulated at the arm, not at the top of the shoulder. So you pull these down, you put the arm into a pose, and then these are on a kind of double hinge, rotate backwards. They've actually even got a ball joint on the end of it, so you can rotate these parts too. So it covers up a lot of the seams, which is really nice. Again, that's a good sign of the new engineering that Hot Toys have started employing with their Iron Man figures. This is the chest, so we'll just pop this off for you, show you the panel underneath it. So again, it's just these clips that slide in, not particularly strong or anything like that, so just be careful with it. And you get this lovely silver, gold and black detailing underneath. I will swap it out with the damage component when we get to the kind of the end bit of the video, so you can appreciate the all the scratches and things showing all the circuit board underneath it. So it's really nice. I do like that a lot. Like I say, I just wish that there'd have been more kind of contact for this to clip in, because it doesn't feel like it presses all the way in perfectly, but I think it's just because of those two prongs. If I flip him round the back now, just while we can demonstrate the other bits to the back of his armour. So I'll just turn him around on this base here, and he's got the flaps here. So these top two flaps open up to stabilisers, which are quite nice. They've got some lovely silver detailing underneath them, and then these wings open up out the back as well. And then if you've ever seen the previous one that had the little kind of metallic grills that used to fold out that everyone used to hate because it stopped these folding down and being nice and flat, you can actually open this up here like that, and you get them just showing, but the actual fin itself doesn't fold down. It's just on show just like that, and again you get some lovely detailing of all the systems underneath it, which is quite nice. I'm not sure if I'll display it like that, but you know, it's there if you ever want it. So I'll just fold those back down, and that's that. And then your battery compartment is actually here, and it is a little bit fiddly. It is quite deep as well, which is why those tweezers really come in handy when you get your kind of screwdriver out. It takes the batteries, the switches are indented into it. I've just flicked it on for you, and that is your chest arc glowing away. I'll spin him around once more for you. There you go. It's really, really nicely illuminated. What also is really cool about this figure as well is he's got blue lights under his abs. You can't really see it that well because again the light in here is pretty bright this morning. But the lights under there are bright blue, and it shines down across his torso and it reflects off all the red. It looks really, really cool. I'll just flip that switch off there. Don't want to waste the batteries. There we go. So that's the torso, well the chest certainly. The torso does have one of those extendable joints that pops up, so if I just take him off his stand for a moment and show you, it does extend. He does have a little bit of waist rotation as well. Nothing really, and you've got to be careful of it as well with these, but nothing really kind of fantastic, but you know, I don't really want to kind of bend him around too much. And just pop him back on there. That's his waist flipped around again. So that's that. While we're up here with the arms, we'll just have a quick look at those. So, like I said before, these fold down to accommodate you moving the arm. And then this opens, and it's actually on a double hinge as well, the arm, so you can actually rotate it quite a lot. And then what you'd do is you'd kind of play about with your shoulder and things like that to close it and make it cover as much space as possible. It is still exposing quite a lot of the silver underneath and things, but just so it doesn't look like there's much kind of kibble underneath there is quite good. The arm does kind of pop out like the 42 does as well, and it's on a hinge so you can rotate that backwards and forwards too, but that's quite nice. I do like that a lot. Bicep, this clips open and shows you the switch and for the battery compartment underneath it, which I'll get to when I come to put in the kind of all the lights and things on for a display. So I'm not going to take it off now for you, but it's just that silver bit that clips off just there. His arm and his elbow, got some nice articulation there. It's a double jointed elbow, so if you've seen it on an Iron Man before, you've seen it there. He has got the really, really good double joint on him though, so you can bend it all the way up there like that. And then if you look at the hands here, this is the panels around the forearm where the weapons interchange, and then these are these typical kind of ball jointed wrist pegs that you get with an Iron Man, where it's kind of a black wrist peg with a bulb at the end, and that's what shines through to the repulsor, so nothing you haven't seen before. Also these fists as well have the articulated flap on the back of them too. So that's that, and then working a little bit way down now, finally got the kind of hard, tedious bit out of the way with all the different lights and the articulation. These are the legs. He has got the drop down leg feature that a lot of the Iron Man figures have had recently. These legs are die cast as well, so this is die cast. The arms are plastic, but this is die cast on the forearm, and these panels here are plastic too. There's quite a lot of the torso which is plastic as well, but the main kind of body of him, like I say, with the legs and the upper arms are die cast, especially all the way down to the lower legs too, they are as well. When you get to here, you'll see that the legs do drop down like I mentioned before, but then there's this feature which sometimes some of the Iron Man just have a panel that opens up and moves down. This is a double one, so they're on a double hinge each, and they raise up, you move your leg into position, and then you close them back down. The only thing that I'm not massively keen on, and I think, to be honest, this is my main complaint with this figure, is that this tab doesn't like sitting under this too much. So you have to make sure that's pushed down and then fold this down to kind of get that seam to close up and to look as good as it can, because if not, you can sometimes, like I say, sometimes find that that panel sits on there and it doesn't look quite flush and it looks a bit odd, so you just have to work it back in. Same on the other side as well. In fact, while I've been messing about with him, it has actually popped back, and you just have, like I say, you just have to realign those waist clips back down. The legs do have a rotation at the upper thigh, so you can swivel them, and the knees here, if we just go all the way down, are double jointed knees, as you've seen them before. Good strong ratchet joint, get the knee right far back there if you wanted to. You do, like I say, get a little bit of the plastic and kind of silver and things showing underneath, so it's totally up to you how adventurous you want to be with your pose. But yeah, do very much like the way that it's all kind of unfurls, the different layers of the knee fold back to kind of show the stuff working underneath it. While we've got down here, just open up this panel as well. I don't know if you can see too well in there, but there's all your inner workings and your circuits and things inside the armour itself. It's quite cool. I do like all this. It reminds me of the Mark II, when you see all the pistons and things kind of folding out of the Armour Unleashed version. And like I say, these legs, pretty much 90% of these legs are all die-cast. It's just the joints that are plastic and the upper thighs that are plastic, but all top to bottom here is all die-cast. And then you've got some extra flaps and things as well. These are plastic, the flaps though. So you can open the back of the flap there to move the foot. Some really good range of motion in it. It does advise you to kind of drop the foot down, move up all panels, and then move your foot into position, and then rearrange your panels afterwards, just so that nothing snaps, nothing gets snagged on these, because it can. But that's the majority of the figure kind of covered, really. Like I say, he weighs an absolute ton compared to some of the other figures that I've got. I think the only one that I can think of, really, the other Iron Man that really kind of rivals him in weight is the Mark 46, which is one of the recent ones, but certainly the 42 had a lot more plastic and things on him. This is really, really heavy. So what I'll do now is I'll get him posed up, I'll get some of his features and things and his accessories popped onto him, and then what we'll do is we'll do kind of a final thoughts and things. Okay, back in a second. Hey guys, so I've quickly just switched out some of the accessories on him. It is a little bit tricky and it is a little bit time consuming to get all the kind of arm pieces on and things like that. So I've only just done the one arm and I've swapped out the fist with that laser gauntlet in there as well that you can see. So just looking over him, you can see that I've just deployed all the kind of shoulder rockets. I've swapped out the magnetic ones on here as well. I've put his damaged faceplate on. And what I've also done is I've put the batteries in the bicep here, so powers on the repulsor as well as the eyes and the chest arc there. One thing that I will say about these, the lights that go into the repulsor as well, is they also power up these. We should just see if I can get a little bit closer, and you can only just see it because the light is really white in here. But so if I move around a little bit, you can see just the little accents of blue. It's the same as what's under his torso here when you turn the arc on. And it basically just illuminates all behind all those little individual rocket pods. I'm not really sure how well you can see it, but it does shine through ever so slightly. It is really bright when it's dark, so I might have a kind of quick tinker around and take some pictures of him and put them on Instagram with these blue lights and things showing, because it does show it off really, really nicely. It accents him quite well. But that's the figure there, with all of his bits and pieces attached to him. I quite like him as just the kind of vanilla Iron Man from the Avengers when he first lands down and he kind of starts getting all of his armour taken off him. I'm not a massive fan of displaying him like this, although I do like the fact that they've got all these extra features, especially these magnetic missile pods. I wish that they'd have made these magnetic. But yeah, I'm out of, you know, so at 10, I'd probably say this is up there as it's kind of a close 9 really. I do really like the Mark 46, and it's something that I'm quite, you know, attached to. In this case with this one, it's up there with it. It's just the like I said, the little complaint I've got with this, and it is only a little complaint, it's like the light features in the Mark 46, they're a hassle to put on, is that these wrists are a little bit of a hassle to put them on, and maybe just the kind of problem with the flaps on the crotch area here, the waist, just to kind of disguise them. It would have been nicer if there were an easier way to do things. But he is a solid figure, it's really, really nice. Love all the lights and the details you get in him. Love the battle damage parts, although it's just not really Avengers, it's more Iron Man 2. But yeah, it's definitely up there as one of my favourites. Let me know what you guys think though. Obviously just do the usual of pop a comment in the bottom if you want to mention anything, and as always, you know, keep liking, keep subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye bye.